There's the Grand Teton right there, about 100 miles away, right in the sunrise. There's an interesting looking sunrise, isn't it? Looks like the sun's being reflected off the clouds. It's early morning, May 3rd, 2008. Welcome to the Backyard Professor videos. You just saw a picture of the Tetons. They're about 100 miles away from me. And now I'm on my way over to Blacktail, the nice little resort reservoir. But boy, that is a very interesting looking sunrise, isn't it? I love getting up early in the mornings and enjoying Mother Nature and studying the scriptures out here where I can be alone and be in the quiet and listen to the birds chirping and watching the hawks and the eagles and the owls and seeing the deer and the moose. Good morning. I've got a selection from John W. Welch. He was the founder of FARMS, the Foundation for Ancient Research and Mormon Studies. And this is pressing forward with the Book of Mormon. These are the FARMS updates in the 1990s. If you don't have this text, I would highly recommend you get this book. I do believe it's on the FARMS website also. The fun thing about this particular selection from John Welch is I have one of the sources that he is using. I got it at a garage sale for 25 cents, so I was really excited about that. Cursing a litigant with speechlessness. This is chapter 37 of this book, page 154, 155, 156. Alma's curse on Korihor, in the name of God, ye shall be struck dumb, that ye shall no more have utterance. Alma chapter 30, verse 49. This resembles an ancient Greek practice of cursing a litigant with speechlessness. When the curse materialized, divine disapproval was so clear that Korihor was compelled to yield the case. Such curses were common in the ancient Mediterranean world, especially in the legal sphere. In recent decades, more than 100 Greek and Roman binding spells, they're called defictionis. These have been unearthed. These are curses inscribed on small lead sheets that were folded up and pierced with a nail. These were recovered from tombs and temples, and especially wells near the law courts, where they were placed in hopes that a deity from the underworld would receive and act upon them. They're called defictionis because their intent is to restrain or hinder an opponent in his words or else in his actions. The earliest of these date to the 5th century BC. 11 of them ask the gods to bind the tongue of a legal opponent so that he would lose the lawsuit. The speechlessness of Korihor, and to an extent the stunning of Sherem in the Book of Mormon, was precisely the kind of sign or restraint that people in the ancient Mediterranean world expected a god to manifest in a judicial setting, when false accusations or unfair ploys placed an opponent at a distinct disadvantage. Stricken litigants often erected a confession stela, confessing their guilt and thus appeasing the gods. The trials of Sherem and Korihor in the Book of Mormon show these same trends of confession. Sherem recanted his public teachings, you'll recall, in the Book of Mormon record. He confessed the truth of the God who had intervened against him. He admitted his error, and he expressed his concern that he would never be able to appease the God again. Korihor's confession acknowledged the power of God, probably to assure those concerned in Zarahemla that the curse would not afflict any others, as well as to terminate the dispute. We find that in Alma chapter 30, verse 51. Such reactions are similar to the responses of others in the ancient world whose judicial perfidy had been exposed and quashed by the intervention of a God responding to the restraining curse of a beleaguered litigant. This is precisely what we find in the Book of Mormon record, isn't it? It corresponds to events, situations, philosophies, and ideas and religious intents from the ancient Mediterranean world. This source that Jack Welch is using is called Magica Hera, Ancient Greek Magic and Religion by Christopher Farron and Dirk Obink. It's out of Oxford University Press. Let me just read one quick selection on page 19 to show you that Welch is using his source correctly. We LDS scholars and apologists are accused of misusing our sources. John Welch does not misuse this source. This is on page 19 in his article, The Agnostic Context of Early Greek Binding Spells. He translates one of the texts. For you bound the sinful men who had prepared the lawsuit, secretly making the tongue silent in the mouth. That's the idea, the speechlessness of an opponent. The use of the verb to bind up and the specific mention of the tongue as the target of the paralysis are immediate clues that some sort of judicial binding spell has been employed. The God's intervention is clearly the result of the frantic prayer of the priest who has tears in his eyes. He begs the God to protect him from conviction. This is precisely how Alma cursed Korihor with speechlessness. So far as I'm aware, this type of cursing of speechlessness doesn't occur in any 19th century literature in Joseph Smith's day in upstate New York. It's not in View of the Hebrews. It's certainly not in Solomon Spaulding that I'm aware of. In fact, I don't believe it's anywhere in the Bible. But it definitely is in the ancient Mediterranean world, and they do date back to way back in ancient times. This argument that the Book of Mormon has nothing going for it, no context, no information, no support, no proof from the ancient world, that argument is simply false.